Just a few weeks back, the West Indians met the Indians under less stressful circumstances. But the IPL's pleasantries long forgotten, it's crunch time, at least for the men in maroon. Gale and Company's World Cup campaign is on its last legs, but it's not over yet. As for Kohli's unbeaten squad, it's an opportunity to seal a semi-spot. At Old Trafford, nobody can tell if it would be an equal battle or not. But everybody can tell that with such characters, there will certainly be action-packed entertainment.
The theme of the World Cup has been of late that no team will go down without a fight. The West Indies need to make sure they keep that theme going as they face the might of India at Manchester just days after hearts were broken by Trent Bolt on the deep long-on boundary at Old Trafford. Let's hope that they can pick themselves up from there and give India a real fight like Afghanistan did, which exposed some vulnerabilities of that Indian team to it. Nothing should be taken for granted in this World Cup anymore after Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Pakistan have all come to the party, albeit a little late. But on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019, we're building up to India versus the West Indies. In studio, Michael Hussey is still here, so too is Murli Karthik. And we are going to be joined by Darren Ganga in the wee hours of the morning in the Caribbean while he just wipes the... there he is. He doesn't even need to wipe his eyes off. I think he went to sleep in that suit, Darren Ganga, didn't you?
I wish, Ronak, hoping for a good contest, but yeah, I'm well rested for this one.
Yeah, I mean, you could call it well rested, but the other thing to say about the West Indies, Mike Hussey, is they'd have days to just think back of what could have been had we just got those 2 points against New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly right. They'll be kicking themselves, but they have to move on. That's in the past now. I think today's match is going to be an interesting one. The questions I have in my mind, can the West Indian power hitters have a day out? The likes of Gale, Buran, Hetmeyer, of course Brathwaite, the captain holder. If they have a day out and are all on song, then I think they're very hard to stop. The vulnerabilities you talk about with the Indian team,
yes.
In that middle order, I don't see it being as much of an issue today. I think that middle order against top quality spin do battle a little bit, but they're very good players of pace bowling. So I don't see that being a part. So can the West Indian bowlers stop this strong Indian batting order with their pace?
Yeah, that having been said, when you see a strong team just suddenly have some vulnerabilities just the game before, it gives you something to take going into them in the next game as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but that is something which you always think about, that you always feel that if we play well, we can always challenge sides, and it is going to happen to every side. It's not as if that they just come in and roll the same way they have in every game. That is never humanly possible for any team. Even the best of teams every now and then collapse, every now and then the bowlers get hit. That is something which we have seen right through the history of cricket. So I don't think that is something which is a big thing. For me, I think from a West Indian point of view, they just sometimes feel like a very fractured unit. The kind of cohesive camaraderie or friendship which you see in other teams, I feel that is sometimes missing in the West Indies for whatever reason. You can ask Darren, is it because of the fact that they are coming from different islands? They also are sometimes like so different in the sense that they play brilliantly and suddenly disintegrate brilliantly as well. So I feel that is more important with the likes of Evan Lewis, Andre Russell missing now. I think they need to find that kind of a unit which can play together.
All right, Darren, would you like one quick response to that? The West Indies need to just get things together now and try and be a force collectively?
Well, Karthik sounds like he's a West Indian, and he's been in a West Indian dressing room in the manner in which he speaks about the West Indian team. But he's quite right. I think, that sort of extra chemistry you expect from a performing team. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there for the West Indies team. It's not about ability. We know of that. I think, it's about trying to find a common thread amongst all these players for them to play for something. Yes, there's West Indian pride at stake. But I just think that West Indians, when they turn up, they need something a little bit extra to sort of motivate them to give their best. They've had performances and spurts from different players along the way, but knowing that their chances of qualifying for the semi-final round has gone through the window, it might be a flat West Indian team that will require a lot more for them to turn up and perform like you expect a top-class performing team to do.
Yeah, I mean, they can still get there. If they win all their remaining games, if the stars align for Jason Holder's team the right way, they could still have a backdoor entry into the top 4. But defeat today, and that puts all those matters of hope to bed. Now, we're not just in studio, we've got you covered in Manchester as well, where Michael Holding is there, Alexis Nunez is there as well. Let's see what they've got for us.
Weather once again, as I keep saying, for the West Indies and for West Indians like Mikey Holding and myself. And as I bounce back after every failed relationship, I've put on a brave face and my West Indies colours, and I'm back out here hoping for the best, Mikey. Now, when you hang out with Mikey Holding, you get to meet friends in high places. We got to chat a little bit with Ravi Shastri just yesterday, and he said something that I think describes the West Indies perfectly. And he says they've been predictably unpredictable. So what are you predicting from them for this clash? Because on paper, it definitely is looking like David versus Goliath again.
Yeah, I'm not predicting anything at all, though, Alexis, because there's no way I'm going to tell you that the West Indies cannot beat India. The West Indies, if they turn up, can beat any other team that's here in this World Cup. As we saw previously, they could have beaten Australia, they should have beaten Australia, they could have beat New Zealand, they should have beaten New Zealand. So I'm not going to say they can't beat India, but they certainly have to play very good cricket. The most important thing is when they're in the field, they've got to support their bowlers. We need some specialist bowlers. I'm waiting to see the selection, to see exactly who will be selected. I hope Roach plays. I hope we play some more specialist bowlers instead of people who do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, because I think that's what's going to win the World Cup or win any games in this World Cup, specialist bowlers.
Well, speaking of the bowlers, I think you said something brilliant yesterday as well when we were talking about the West Indies bowlers, and you said that through the tournament we've seen that sometimes they just don't really have a plan B. In this one, what would you like to see their plan B, or how would you like to see Jason Holder organize his bowling attack?
Well, so far in this World Cup, the West Indies have not been able to rely on too many bowlers bowling all 10 overs every game that they have gone into. What I'd like to see, if Thomas plays, is that they don't rely on him to bowl 10 overs, because if he's a young man, he's just learning his craft, he hasn't really developed as a fast bowler yet. If his pace and bounce isn't working, you have got to have some other option. You can't ask him to bowl all 10 overs if it's not working. So I'd like to see them have other options that they can say, Thomas, yes, it's working, give him all 10. If not, then we have some other people that can fill in. That's why I'm glad to see that Nurse play the last game. I'm glad to see that Roach play the last game, because I think Roach can bowl 10 overs in every game under all circumstances. So we'll see what selection they make, and of course then how they handle the selection, how they handle the bowlers.
And like you said, we will see what team selection is made today, because we know that Andre Russell has been ruled out. He had surgery on his knee just yesterday. Sunil Ambrose has been brought in as a replacement. Some were questioning because it's not a like-for-like replacement, but some were basically saying that maybe it's for him to bat at the top of the order, especially because there were question marks on Evan Lewis. He had a scan, and Jason Holder said that nothing showed up on the scan. So would you bring in Sunil Ambrose for this match, or would you just leave it as it is, knowing that Evan Lewis, I guess, is okay with that hamstring?
If Lewis is okay, I would play Lewis. I don't want to be bringing someone brand new into the tournament at this stage. Lewis and Chris Gayle, then you have Hope. That is what I would like to see. I'd like to see those two opening the batting. Hope batting at number 3. Although if Hope opens the batting, I don't think that's as a big drawback for the West Indies. I like to see Hope bat as many overs as he possibly can, and the stroke makers batting against him. But of course, Lewis and Chris Gayle can give us a fantastic start, which is a possibility.
Well, fantastic starts is exactly what we have been seeing from the West Indies. We just want fantastic finishes, as Mikey keeps preaching that they get the starts and they just need to follow through. We'll see if this is the perfect condition up against India for us to finally see that. Back to you guys.
That's as good as the Caribbean flavor can get. Alexis Nunez with the great Mikey Holding, and we will get thoughts from them a bit later on as this game comes along too. Now, what about the sort of strip that we're going to get? That was in huge discussion yesterday in Edgbaston, and it served us perhaps the best game of the tournament, or one of the best games in the tournament, when New Zealand and the West Indies played at Old Trafford. So viewers in the Caribbean, let's see what the pitch is like for this one. Ian Bishop and Michael Atherton have you covered. And viewers on ESPN Cricinfo, stay right with us, because after a Pakistan win, you know that social media would be injected with a little bit of energy, and Anubhav will exemplify that now. All yours.
Thank you so much, Ronak. They say nothing is certain but death and taxes. Let me just change that to nothing is certain but death, taxes, and Pakistan's unpredictability. We'll kick things off with one of Pakistan's heroes from yesterday, Pakistan's Babar Azam, who says, "What a great victory yesterday. This is for my Pakistan." Now, Pakistan's victory drew quite a few reactions from every nook and corner. The first one coming from Imran Khan, who's congratulating the Pakistan team and says, "Special congratulations go to Babar, Haris and Shaheen for playing like corner tigers and not Railu Kattas." We also had the senior Afridi who's lauding the bowling performance of Shaheen Afridi, and Sania Mirza as well, who says, "What an incredibly great leveler sport can be," referring to Pakistan's reversal of fortunes. Up next, we've got a picture of Wasim Akram, senior, speaking with Shaheen Afridi and Mohammad Amir before the game. So Wasim's words of wisdom certainly helping Pakistan's cause. Next, we've got the West Indies' salute man, Sheldon Cottrell, who's asked by a fan as to why he only has 904 followers on Twitter, and Sheldon Cottrell telling him that his cricket game is much stronger than his Twitter game, and last time I checked, his following has gone up to 7,000 odd. We have his West Indian teammate Andre Russell next, who gives us a positive update on his surgery, saying that the surgery went well and thanking everyone for everyone's kind words. And we'll wrap things up with our very own Sambit Bal, who's in Manchester right now, giving us a weather update saying it's bright and sunny, the sky there looking as clear as crystal.
All right, wow, that's a wrap. That's a quick 2020 wrap by Anubhav, and particularly keen to see that the editor-in-chief has reached Manchester safely to give us weather updates. But anyway. Right, and conditions in pitch report from Ian Bishop and Michael Atherton, and we expect a good game again, and again it'll trigger the conversation as this World Cup gets deeper. We may see less and less 300s and more sort of 250s, 260s, either successfully defended or even a 280, 290 nearly successfully chased, and as long as it's a contest, you welcome it, Michael.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love to see that great contest between bat and ball. I think the Indians will like the look of that pitch. It's been used before. They've got two very good spinners in their lineup, so I think they'll be licking their lips to get out there for the West Indians. It's a tough ask, but yeah, as I said earlier, if their big guns can come to the party, then as Michael Holding said, they can beat anyone on their day, but can they turn up? That's the big question.
I mean, India are more comfortably placed, you'd think, Karthik, in the points table, but you're looking at used strips more and more. It'll start teasing the tactical acumen of the teams. Should I change the winning combination? Should I play extra spinners? India do have the luxury of that.
Yeah, but again, you'll still need a couple of seamers. You can't go without them, and obviously the depth which Hardik Pandya has started providing, his batting ability and the fact that he bowls and also electric on the field. It'll be a tough one to leave out somebody. I think the only person then who might get dropped is Kedar Jadhav.
Yeah, he got a 50 in the last game.
Yeah, he got 50 in the last game. So it'll be interesting how they go about it. It'll be interesting how they read the surfaces and what they think of it. Yeah, you might have to every now and then. I'm pretty sure that those two spinners, if they see some used and worn wickets, they'll be very happy.
There'll be enough then.
They'll be
India have their bases covered. I'd be very keen to see if West Indies play some extra spin today. We'll get thoughts from the panel on the other side of the break. Stay with us on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day.
I had never ever met or even seen one-to-one or in the close quarters the West Indian players. I had heard so much from a school kid till this date. I was really fascinated by the style of West Indies cricket and the legions they had.
For many Indians, a generation of West Indian cricketers were no less than legends. As India played West Indies in the opening game of the 1983 World Cup, Sandeep Patil was overawed at the prospect of facing the defending champions. Nothing had prepared him for the moment he came eye to eye with one particular legend.
As they started walking, I started shivering. Mind you, I swear on my cricket, I started shivering. I also remember I had kept my kit bag, then the famous coffins which we used to carry. It was lying next to the reception, and of course my name was written there, Sandeep Patil. And as I kept looking at Viv kept looking at bag. Maybe he noticed not only the bag but the name written on that, Sandeep Patil. And as I said, he wanted to meet me. And next thing he did, he directly stared at me, and I thought I'll run away. I just wanted to vanish from there. The look of Sir Viv Richards straight looking into my eyes was something I had never experienced. And he, forget about he going to the reception, he walked straight to me, shook hands with me, he introduced, I'm Viv, and I think you are Sandeep. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to react. Great Viv Richards walking up to me and shaking his hands and started talking to me. And it was some experience. I've not forgotten, and I don't think I will ever forget this.
Bright and sunny in Manchester as we build up to India versus the West Indies. It's time for the toss now. Both captains at Old Trafford with Ian Bishop. And viewers on ESPN Cricinfo, stay right with us because we continue to pick up the chat from what Mikey Holding and Alexis Nunes left off. And I'll come to you, Darren, with the choice of replacement in Sunil Ambrish, who is not exactly a like for like. There were all-round options if the West Indies wanted it, but they've gone for a top-order batsman. What does that tell you about what they need in their team?
Well, they're looking at a specialist position. They're probably a little bit worried about Evan Lewis and his fitness. Only a couple of matches left in this World Cup. Ambrish had a very good triangular series recently, that one-day series in Ireland. He scored a fine century there, and I think he averages over 100 in one-day cricket. So very new to white ball cricket at the international level. Maybe they're thinking about succession planning, having younger players around this West Indian side. We saw a new development recently with Chris Gayle, who many felt would bow out of international cricket and white ball cricket after this World Cup, has said that he wants to continue in the series against India. So that puts a different spin on things. But I think Ambrish is someone that they've sort of earmarked for better things in the future, and they will probably invest in him rather than going for a like-for-like replacement for Andre Russell.
And what's going on with Chris Gayle, who's decided he wants to play on a bit more?
Well, I think it's a matter of him probably doing an assessment of his body and probably wanting to say goodbye in front of the home crowd. There's a series against India, and I know a test match will be played at Sabina Park, so maybe he's thinking about a grand farewell to international cricket. I think you look at his record and very much deserving of something like that.
All right, well, we'll find out in just a second whether Sunil Ambrish has the rare chance of being drafted into the team mid-tournament in a World Cup and getting a game straight away. And we also would like to keep an eye out on what captains decide to do now going forward. Virat Kohli's already said that he thinks that batting first and then defending decent totals is going to be the way to go as this World Cup gets deeper and deeper. It is exactly what Virat Kohli has decided to do then. He's managed to win the toss and have a bat first on a bright and sunny day in Manchester. Let's get quick thoughts on that. Murli Karthik, no surprises. If Kohli wins the toss, that's how he likes to go.
No surprises. And I think previously it was a very similar day against Pakistan, although initially there were a few clouds and they decided the same thing. And I'm pretty sure that against West Indies and this new look West Indies side, I don't think you would have had any doubts after saying that you're not going to get too many runs, so it's better to put runs on the board and defend it.
Yeah, Kohli's come out on the batsman and said just better shot selection perhaps required after what happened against Afghanistan.
Yeah, Afghanistan's a tricky game, I think, for India because they do have excellent spinners that can really tie you up in those middle overs, and I don't think that'll be as much of a threat today for those Indian players. So I think it's all going to plan nicely for Virat Kohli so far. Win the toss, get a big first score on the board, and then use your spinners to really come into play on this used pitch later on. They'll still be nervous though, because the West Indians have some power players in there, and if they get going, they're really difficult to stop, like what we saw from Brathwaite the other night against New Zealand.
Yeah, just to have a confirmation then of that team, which is unchanged from the one that narrowly managed to get the points against Afghanistan, and perhaps the only other possible inclusion would have been if they wanted to find room for Ravindra Jadeja on what looks like a pitch that can turn. But like you've rightly pointed out, that's almost a team where if you take somebody out, it affects the balance.
It affects the balance because Hardik Pandya is doing well. You need his explosive ability in the end. And again, I've been saying this, I've been watching him for a while, and now I feel that he's mature enough to not just play those blazing innings alone. He's just mature enough to look at the situation and play accordingly, because his defense is as solid as anyone else. And so Kedar Jadhav has done well. So who do you get him in place of? You can't drop the two spinners to find another spinner. Those guys are bowling well as well. So it's a tough one right now.
It's a beautifully balanced team, really. And I think that team, it can have success in any conditions. And that's why I think India would be I'd be very surprised if they didn't go all the way to the final.
Yeah, I mean, the only one concern is that those four bowlers are exceptional, but all of them pretty much bat as well as each other. So that that
it's a long tail.
Yeah,
it's a long tail.
But if you have those bowlers, maybe you'll be able to defend 230, 240 like India have in the last game. What about the West Indies team? And there are two changes that we can confirm now. And indeed, Sunil Ambrish comes straight in to the playing 11. Evan Lewis, we'd assume, has not recovered from that hamstring strain that he picked up in the game against New Zealand. And it's a swap for the spinners. Ashley Nurse goes out. Fabian Allen comes in. Darren Ganga, thoughts on that? I'm particularly intrigued to see Sunil Ambrish straight in and Darren Bravo continuing to warm the bench.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising that a drafted player goes straight into the playing 11. Floyd Reefer and the technical team will know exactly the form of Sunil Ambrish. He's been back in the Caribbean watching the start of this World Cup, and now he finds himself opening the batting with Chris Gayle. The only plus for him will be that he was just next door in Ireland, playing recently against Bangladesh and Ireland. So he will be in some sort of form. He had a good series there. So hopefully he can extend himself and be ready for this opportunity, because it's a big opportunity. Surprised that Dan Bravo is not used. And again, it's a continuation of what we've seen in terms of Bravo and his inclusion and non-inclusion throughout the start of this World Cup. I think, it doesn't send the right message for a player of his caliber, and doesn't give him any sort of chance of getting into rhythm, getting into stride and into any sort of form. So that would be disappointing for Bravo, not having another opportunity in this World Cup. For the West Indies, they will hope that their batting clicks when they do get the chance to bat. But for now, it will be their bowling. It's good to see young Allen in this side, the left-arm spinner. Hasn't taken the world by storm in terms of wicket taking. He's very flamboyant in terms of he's three-dimensional. He can bowl his 10 overs. He's had the chance of playing against India late 2018 in that one-day game that they won in Pune. He was a part of the squad, didn't get a wicket, only picked up his first international wicket in ODI cricket recently in that tour in Ireland. So he will want to enhance his reputation with his bowling. He's got a number of right-handers in this Indian batting lineup that he can try and see if he could contain and exploit. But for me, it will be about the West Indian fast bowlers continuing what we've seen, picking up wickets in the first power play and extending that into power play number 2. If they can break this Indian top 3, as we've seen, they've been very productive with Shikhar Dhawan now, Rahul at the top. It will be about taking wickets in the middle period as well and exploiting a little bit of vulnerability as we've seen in the middle order for India.
Right, Fabian Allen has the opportunity, and yes, he was impressive when he did come to India. He is almost the West Indian equivalent of Ravindra Jadeja. He's three-dimensional, bowls, bats, fields, and he's got 6 right-handers at his disposal in India's batting. We'll continue this conversation with Darren Ganga, Mike Hussey and Murli Karthik. It's time for another short break, fast approaching the first ball between India and the West Indies at Old Trafford. So stay with us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019.
Virender Sehwag reminded his coach John Wright of the great baseballer Yogi Berra's quote, "How can you think and hit at the same time?" Sehwag's 4-word philosophy of see ball, hit ball was best seen at the 2011 World Cup. In the first game, he hit the very first ball he faced for a 4. In the second, boom, first ball 4 again. The third, the fourth. For 5 games in a row, he promptly dispatched the first balls for boundaries. He could have gone on had it not been for an injury which kept him out of the 6th game.
India and their strong batting lineup are going to soon walk out at Manchester to take on the West Indies team that must win this one to stay alive in the tournament. The key will be if they can get that man, Virat Kohli, and possibly Rohit Sharma out early. Afghanistan showed that there are vulnerabilities if you can do that successfully, but it's no easy task. And it is something that most bowlers are still trying to figure out how to get Rohit and Kohli cheaply together. We asked probably one of the greatest there's ever been. Michael Holding is back with us, and he did tell us what the West Indian bowlers need to do to trouble Kohli and Rohit.
Well, West Indies have had some problems with their opening partners because of the fact they've had some injuries. Evan Lewis has had injuries. Hope opened the batting at one point, and then they decided they wanted to have him a bit further down the order. Then that changed again and went back to opening. The last time he opened, he didn't succeed. He failed, but I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that he went up to open. Hope is a good player. He can bat as an opener, he can bat at number 3. So I don't think that's a serious problem. They just need everyone fit so that they can settle on an opening partnership, Gale and someone, and make that person be a regular opener. Against any batsman in the world, irrespective of how good the player is, you have got to go in there with a simple plan of not bowling balls wide of off stump or wide down the leg side. That's the first basic plan. The next thing is depending on each individual batsman. What length do I need to bowl to this particular batsman? And you have got to know that how the strengths and weaknesses of the different batsmen. Virat Kohli, very difficult to identify specific weaknesses with Virat Kohli, but the most you can do is if the ball isn't swinging, bowl a negative length, meaning not in the slot. If the ball is moving around, that slot length, yes, you pitch the ball up and look to see if you can get the outside edge if he's driving. If not, you have got to start pretty negatively. If you get some early wickets, then you attack because you want to get him out as well. But if you don't get early wickets when he comes in, you have got to be as negative as you can as far as the length is concerned and bowl a very tight line on off stump.
And Michael Holding, just again in typical Michael Holding style, the shirt and the voice, it all fits the package. And he's made some pertinent points. They have to strike early, but as I go to Darren Ganga very quickly for a few final comments. One thing, Darren, that we have noticed is Jason Holder's use of his bowlers. It's going to be a test now. He's lost the toss. India's top order are in good form. And sort of how he uses his bowlers here. He didn't bowl out himself. He uses Carlos Brathwaite at the death. That's going to be key to try and keep India to a score that the West Indies would want to chase.
Very much so. I think Jason Holder himself has to show that he is a little more versatile and can't only bowl in the middle period. He's got to try and shape his game so that he can bowl a couple in the death, possibly in the first power play as well. The other thing is how he uses Fabian Allen to these Indian players. They're very good players against spin. He can't just allow them to have partnerships in the middle period. He's got to use his attacking bowlers, Cotterell, O'Shane Thomas, through that power play number 2 as well to try to get wickets. That will be crucial. In terms of Virat Kohli, I've said before, the last 6 times he's played against the West Indies, he's got 4 centuries. I just think when Virat Kohli comes to the crease, you've got to try and make him play the power shots, not allow him to get the easy singles and get a foundation chase in it. Encourage him to do something very different. So bring more fielders within the 30-yard circle and put some pressure on Virat Kohli and let him do something very different to what he's accustomed doing at the start of his innings.
I love it. The daily Darren Ganga nugget continues to give you the gift that keeps on giving, Darren Ganga. And we'll continue getting your thoughts as this game comes along. And it should make for a good halftime chat, the use of Jason Holder and his bowlers. And that's where we leave viewers in the Caribbean for now. We will be back with our mid-innings analysis on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019 with Michael Hussey, Murli Karthik as well as Darren Ganga. Alexis Nunes will join us from Old Trafford as well. Must-win game for the Windies. They need to forget what happened against New Zealand and simply try and put in their A game to beat India, who are the only unbeaten team of the tournament. Enjoy live action. We'll see you again soon. And viewers on ESPN Cricinfo, stay right with us. We've got a little more that we'd like to cover. And from an Indian angle, you'd think, Karthik, now with every opportunity, you're sort of waiting. Rohit Sharma, great form. Kohli, you know what you're getting. But you want KL Rahul to get that one big score for it to bode well for India going deeper into this tournament.
Not just one big score, just a lot of big scores, because that is where he seems to let go after starting well, doing all the hard work and looking like $1 million, and then if you give your wicket away, it doesn't do well for the team nor for yourself. And I think that's where he can take a leaf out of Rohit Sharma, the way he bats, or Virat Kohli. He's got enough examples right in front of him. And also, you want Vijay Shankar to feel a lot more settled, because if there are too many people talking about his spot, I definitely get a feeling that he's a confidence player. We've seen that as soon as his confidence started going up, he started batting brilliantly for India. And then suddenly, once the knives were out as to why he was not, why was he picked ahead of Ambati Rayudu or anyone else, again that form dipped in spite of being in the World Cup team during the IPL. So I just feel that people need to let him be, and I think he needs to get a lot of TLC from the team so that he settles in, because he can do a good job. He definitely can do a good job. Yeah. And obviously, you just want the fifth bowler or possibly a few more options, because there could be days where the spinners can get hit, or Shami or Bumrah can have a bad day.
Kumar also pulling up those
exactly.
Sort of things,
so you need options. So you want the Hardiks, the Kedar Jadavs, and possibly Vijay Shankar to chip in more with the ball as well.
And just for those viewers who may not, TLC being
tender love and care.
Very good from Murli Karthik. Excellent from Karthik. And we are talking of a very significant component of this Indian team. Maybe the focus is on the middle order, but taking Shikhar Dhawan out of this team has actually been massive, and the fact that India haven't quite felt it just yet is perhaps one reason as that they had two big games out of the way before Shikhar Dhawan went. That's South Africa and Australia. Pakistan, Rahul played well, and that was a team where you saw the gulf between them. New Zealand would have been a good test for KL Rahul to face Trent Bolt and the likes with the new ball. That didn't happen. So I think today might be another day where there would be some serious, in the form Sheldon Cottrell's in, that there could be a serious test for KL Rahul.
Yeah. Without doubt. And I'm sure he'll be feeling a bit of pressure as well. He's really wanting to grab that opening position and make it his own. It is a big loss, losing Shikhar Dhawan. I'd just like to come back to the West Indies.
Sure.
It was really interesting listening to Michael Holding there about keeping the bowling plans very simple. It really reminded me of team meetings in the Australian dressing room. So Glenn McGrath would turn up to a team meeting and he'd say, right, bowling plans, let's just try and hit the top of off stump with the occasional bouncer. Right, meeting over. And he'd walk out. And that's what I think these West Indians have to do early. Keep it as simple as possible, but find that length just to hit the top of off stump, bowl the occasional bouncer, and then that will build pressure up on these Indian players. Hopefully they can pick up a couple of wickets. Obviously at the end, you need to be a bit more flexible and bowl your Yorkers and slower balls and that sort of stuff. But early on, they've got to turn up with this disciplined approach, because otherwise the likes of KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli are just going to get away, and they're going to be extremely hard to stop.
You used to have this good thing in the IPL. You used to keep saying who has meetings and who has...
The winners have parties and the losers have meetings.
So not too many meetings in the Australian dressing room?
No, not too many when Glenn McGrath was around. And Shane Warne was much the same as well. He'd prefer to just go out there and do it rather than sitting in a room and talking about it forever.
I mean, we'll continue these discussions on India's top order. We saw that graphic a little while earlier, which shows India's top order actually bats out more time than most other teams, which is one of the reasons they've been such a successful one-day unit. But the questions around the middle order will remain, to some degree at least. Given the exposure that we saw in the last game too, we came down to questions against the strike rate and the intent. When batting first, you look at that middle order and you know some of those guys very well, Mike Hussey, Kedar Jadhav, MS Dhoni. Vijay Shankar is still trying to find his feet at number 4. Yeah. What can, say, a 5 and 6 do? Let's say they don't have a Virat Kohli or a Rohit Sharma. That makes life easy. But if they're not there, what can a 5 and 6 do to sort of make that middle order a little more fluid, a little more flexible?
Yeah, I'd just like to see them be a bit busier in those middle overs. Being able to rotate the strike is really important. And that was a really interesting graphic there. So against Afghanistan, the strike rate was really low because the spinners are very good and they really tied the Indian players up. But against Australia, the strike rate was actually quite high. More pace bowlers coming in and bowling at them. I think the Indian middle order are very good against the pace bowlers, but not as good at rotating the strike against the slower bowlers and the spinners. And as you can see there again, 68's the strike rate against Afghanistan, way too slow. You've got to be able to get off strike and rotate the strike more in that period. I think that frustrated Virat Kohli in the last innings. He'd get a single off the first ball and then there'd be 5 dots. Then he'd get a single off the next over and then there'd be 4 or 5 dots. So I think that's one thing they can definitely improve on. I don't see it being as much of a challenge today because the West Indians are more based around pace. And so I'd expect those middle order players, particularly someone like an MS Dhoni, much better player of faster bowling than he is at rotating the spinners in the middle overs.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're looking at just in the World Cup so far. Hardik Pandya's come up and down depending on the situation a few times and played a couple of key innings at a decent strike rate. What you're looking for is MS Dhoni to perhaps play a little differently today. And the fact that there's no wrist spin, we know that's been one thing MS Dhoni that can keep him bogged down in the early part of his innings. There's no wrist spin on offer today. Dhoni wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. And also Fabian Allen is somebody who doesn't try and spin the ball too much. So it'll not be as tough as it was that day. And obviously, even the situation was slightly different, possibly coming in. He lost Virat as well. Yeah, I understand that while Virat was there, Virat was taking a single and there are quite a few balls being chewed up by MSD. But I think that is something which he would also look at. Yeah, that is something which has been there for a long time, isn't it, with him? As soon as he comes in, as a bowler, as a spinner, sometimes you feel this is the best time to bowl to MS, so that you clog the fielders in, because he runs at you and tries to either flick you or nurdle you. He doesn't have that short step where people used to manipulate. I think that is some area where the spinners have been able to bowl to him initially while he walks in.
If we just look at the numbers in the middle overs for MS Dhoni in the last few years, and again, we focus on Dhoni. Poor chap only gets one innings and gets 20 dot balls, and we've got all the numbers dug out for him, Mike Hussey, but that's just how we love to talk about MS Dhoni. Now, he's shown that he has the hitting ability. I used to have this conversation that his hitting powers are on the wane. That's not true, because we've seen what he can do in the IPL. So clearly it's a question of what approach he decides to take. And we're looking at a strike rate of 68 in the last 3 years or so in ODI cricket in the middle, because he backs himself to go big later.
That's right.
Would you like to see it done a little differently though?
Well, he likes to take time at the start of his innings to get in, play the situation and be the man there at the end to show off his great power. He knows that spinners are going to come onto him straight away. We see it all the time in the IPL. He's planned for it, he's ready for it. He says himself, when he's batting at his best, he's able to rotate the strike better. So I think he'll be just feeling it a little bit, thinking, yes, okay, I want to rotate it better, but he also likes to take a bit of time, get himself set, and then catch up later on. So I'm sure he's working on it, I'm sure he's thinking about it, and I'm sure he'd like to be doing it a lot better. But when you're coming up against top quality spinners, the pitch is turning, the team's lost a few wickets, he very much goes into this mould of, right, okay, I've got to play the situation well, and so it's a difficult pressure situation to be in. He's shown over many years how well he's played the pressure situation.
From what you know, no one can talk him out of what he's decided to do. If he's fixed it, then that's it. He's going to do what he's decided. But it's worked more often than not for India when it comes to MS Dhoni. Darren, you've been listening to this very patiently, and the world is continuing to talk, at least in our parts of the world. We continue to talk about India's middle order vulnerabilities or the potential vulnerabilities. If Sheldon Cottrell can do what he did a game or two back, they'd get 2 wickets quickly, you'd like to see West Indies really try and stranglehold that middle order, not give MS Dhoni that ability to get off strike. There's an opportunity here for the Windies if they can get 1 or 2 earlys in there.
Definitely, we've seen that. I think the middle order hasn't had a lot of, you would say, game time or time out in the middle. That's because of how productive India's top 3 players have been. So I would like to see that. And from a West Indian perspective, yes, it would be great to get into that middle order, maybe around the 17th, 18th over, so you can put pressure on the likes of Dhoni, Kedar Jadhav, and even Vijay Shankar, who is, been in this Indian side, and there's been a lot of debate about his inclusion. So if you can play on that psychological factor as well, I think you have a good chance of denting this Indian team. Batting first, yes, definitely the way to go at this venue. The previous 3 matches there, successful for teams batting first. But again, just to build on that point with regard to MS Dhoni, as you go up in age, and it's something that I've seen with a lot of international players, they become more and more conservative in their approach, because they probably reflect that it's very important for them to give themselves time at the start of the innings to build a base and to get going. So maybe MS Dhoni is thinking about maybe survival too much at the start of his innings. He's got to enjoy his cricket more. I just feel that when MS Dhoni is at his best, he is not overthinking. He's got to find that balance. And I think that is what India would want from MS Dhoni, for him to enjoy his cricket. This is quite frankly his last World Cup, and they would want to see an MS Dhoni playing with that type of freedom. This is a strong Indian batting lineup, and I think if MS Dhoni is in a more attacking mode, it makes this Indian batting lineup much more dangerous.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we see that from MS Dhoni, and then you'll perhaps see India in a completely different force, or as a completely different force going forward. You think they are favourites going into this game, but strange things have happened in the World Cup in the last few days. Let's see what our experts panel makes of this game with ESPN Cricinfo Cricket Picks.
Put your tipping to the test. Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions and track your progress throughout the tournament. The easiest thing you'll do all day. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today.
Oh, Darren Ganga, you astute, objective man. You've gone for India today, which would signal a death knell for West Indies in this World Cup. Just can't see them putting one past India, can you, Darren?
No, not really. I think based on form, based on what I've seen from India, my heart is saying West Indian, and if the proper West Indian team turns up and they play to potential, yes, they can beat this Indian side, but the possibility of that happening is a little bit slim. That's why I've gone for India.
You can just see, he's saying it so well. He's put his objective analyst hat on, and I love it. Darren Ganga, I hope there's something shocking in store for you at the end of this day. But yes, we understand why everyone else has gone India's way. And remember, we are following every ball here. And you know what? We're also going to be playing the World Cup as the match happens on Hotstar Watch and Play, where you don't just watch the match, you play it live alongside your favorite cricketer. So just get on to Hotstar Watch and Play, and we'll pick up your top comment at the halftime show. Many thanks to Mike Hussey and Murli Karthik. Let's see how many India have got, and we will be back, of course, at the end of the 50 overs to pick up this conversation with Karthik Hass and Darren Ganga on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019.